अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं। नमः पङ्कजनाभाय नमः पङ्कजमालिने नमः पङ्कजनेत्राय नमस्ते पङ्कजाङ्घ्रये। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। सर्वेभ्यो नमः, सर्वेषां कृते स्वागतम्। We are today concluding the 10th chapter. In the last class, we completed till the 38th shloka of the 10th chapter, and Sri Bhagavan has been narrating his vibhutis to us, or you can say examples of his vibhutis, since the 20th shloka of the 10th chapter. So now, in the last 4 shlokas, he will state 2 more vibhutis and then he will conclude. So we will go through those shlokas and then we will summarize. So the 39th shloka of the 10th chapter, Sri Bhagavan says, Yacchapi sarvabhutanam bijam tadaham arjuna na tadasti vinayat syat maya bhutam characharam. Yacchapi sarvabhutanam bijam tadaham arjuna na tadasti vinayat syat maya bhutam characharam. So he's saying that yat chapi, yat chapi means whatever in existence, sarva bhutanam, of all living beings. Okay, the word bhutam in Sanskrit can refer to a living being. It can also refer to an element, like we say pancha mahabhutam, 5 elements which constitute this matter, and the basic elements. So bhutam refers to practically living and non-living beings. So he says whatever living and non-living beings exist, bijam, bhutanam bijam means the seed of all those beings, living and non-living beings. Tad aham Arjuna, that is me. Okay, so having spoken about different examples of his splendor, different elements in this material existence, at the end now, as he's coming towards the end, he makes a statement. He's saying all the beings that I have talked about, all the beings that exist, sarva bhutanam bijam, the seed of all those beings is me. Tad aham Arjuna, O Arjuna. And then he says, na tadasti vinayat syat maya bhutam characharam, means if you want to think of a being or anything, if you want to think of anything that exists without me, then such a thing is non-existent. Na tadasti vinayat syat maya means suppose you are trying to conceptualize or trying to think or imagine something that can possibly be where you can say there is no Krishna there. Okay, I agree that Krishna is in so many different things. Krishna is in this, in that, in that, in that. But find one example where Krishna does not exist. So he's saying if you are trying to do that, then please know that there is no such thing. Na tadasti, such a thing does not exist, or it's just imaginary. It doesn't exist. Chara acharam. Charam means that which moves. Acharam means that which does not move. In all the moving as well as non-moving beings. That includes living beings, non-living beings, plants which don't move, animals move, mountains don't move. So everything, all put together, there is nothing where Krishna is not present. O Arjuna, whatever be the seed of everything in this existence, I am that. Anything moving or non-moving without me is non-existent or just illusory. So with this shloka, the 39th shloka of the 10th chapter, Sri Bhagavan has listed 85 examples of his vibhutis over 20 shlokas. Okay, so then he says in the 40th shloka, Nantosti mama divyanam vibhutinam parantapa. Esha tu uddeshatah prokto vibhuter vistaro maya. Nantosti mama divyanam vibhutinam parantapa. Esha tu uddeshatah prokto vibhuter vistaro maya. So he's saying that now I have told you so many examples of my vibhuti, but nanto asti, there is no end to this. Now we have gathered here to fight this war. You're supposed to have started fighting, but you said you will not fight. Then you said you're confused, then you called me your guru and you're asking me to now give you advice. And I've given you so much advice till now, and finally you brought me to a point where I had to talk about myself. And now I have given you examples of my this, my that, I am this, I am that. I can go on, but I'll never end because there is no end to it. Nanto asti, na antaha asti. There is no end to this, and therefore I'll stop here. I'm not stopping here because I've ended all that I had to say. It's simply because I'll never be able to end. And therefore I have to stop somewhere so that we can get on to our business. We are supposed to be fighting here. Nantosti mama divyanam vibhutinam. My divine vibhutis. These vibhutis are my vibhutis, therefore they are divine. Divya. Divya means divine. Okay, the English word the English word divine is very closely matching with the Sanskrit word divya. Divyanam vibhutinam parantapa. Of all my divine vibhutis, there is no end. So then somebody may ask, okay, so then why did you at all start saying and so all this? Eshatu uddeshatah proktaha. But I have just spoken these as examples, just to give you some feel, for what my splendor is like. Eshatu uddeshatah proktaha. Vibhutehe vistaro maya. My expansive vibhuti. Here he's using vibhuti in singular, means he's talking about the entire set of vibhutis as a collective noun. Vibhutehe vistaro maya. Nantosti mama divyanam vibhutinam parantapa. Eshu tu uddeshatah prokto vibhuter vistaro maya. Oh, parantapa. The word parantapa referring to Arjuna here refers to, it means one who gives misery to his enemies, those who take him on, those who challenge him, he makes them troubled or he troubles them. Parantapa. Parantapayati. Oh Parantapa, there is no end to my divine splendors. The expanse of those splendors has been described by me only for the purpose of illustration. Yadyad vibhuti matsatvam Srimadurjitameva va Tattadeva vagachatvam Mama tejomsha sambhavam. Yadyad vibhuti matsatvam Srimad urjitameva va Tattadeva vagachatvam Mama tejomsha sambhavam. So he says, Yadyat vibhuti matsatvam. So whatever has something which is of some splendor in it in this world. Yadyat vibhuti matsatvam. Sattvam means any substance which exists in this world. Okay, anything of some substance is called a sattva. The word sattva in general means substance. So, yadyat vibhuti matsatvam, anything that has something good about it, something splendorous, something that stands out in it. Okay, it could be a human being, it could be an animal, it could be a bird, it could be a mountain, anything. Anything which stands out as distinct from the others. Srimad urjitam evava. Urjitam, Srimat, the word Srimat is generally used to refer to something of beauty or something that is wealthy, something that is rich, something that is beautiful. Urjitam means that in which you see an excess, abundance, excess of that beauty or wealth. Okay, so anywhere you see some excellence or excess of beauty, wealth or power or strength, extending that whole idea. Evava, tattadeva avagachatvam mama tejomsha sambhavam. Says you must understand that all that you are seeing as beautiful, which attracts you, he's citing that because that attracts us. Beautiful things attract us. Something which stands out from the others attracts us. So when you are attracted to something like that, please understand that that has been created or that has manifested from a small fragment of me. of my strength. Tejaha. Tejaha refers to strength, or you can say the power, tejas. So from my power or my potency, my energy, a fragment of that, tejaha amsha, tejomshaha, tejasaha amshaha, tejomshaha, tasmat sambhavam, or tasmat sambhava, means from that tejomsha, from that fragment of that power, it has been created. So anything of excellence, anything outstanding, anything great you see in this world, when it attracts you, you must think that it has just been born from a small fragment of my excellence. Whatever in existence is splendor or reflects superlative wealth, beauty, and so on, you must understand that as born of just a fragment of my potencies. And finally, he concludes the 10th chapter with this shloka. Athava bahunaitena kim jnatena tavarjuna. Athava bahunaitena kim jnatena tavarjuna. Vishtabhyahamidam kritsnam ekamshena sthito jagat. Athava bahunaitena kim jnatena tavarjuna. Vishtabhyahamidam kritsnam ekamshena sthito jagat. Says Athava here. Athava normally in Sanskrit means or. Like in English, we use or in other words. Suppose I say a lot of things and then I want to summarize all that I have said. So I'll say, in other words, blah, 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 right? So now he's using that word athava like that. Or in other words, bahuna etena kim jnatena tavarjuna. With all this bahuna means with so much that I have told you, etena, with all this, so many examples I have given you, kim jnatena tavarjuna. What is the use of all that? What will you really know by knowing all these things? Kim jnatena. Like in English we say, what is the point of telling all that? Instead, I'll just tell you in essence what I am trying to tell you. Vishtabhya aham idam kritsnam ekamshena sthito jagat. He says that by being the foundation of this entire universe, I exist with just a small amsha of myself. Ekamsha means with one amsha, with one small piece of myself, one small fragment of myself. This entire universe, Jagat Kritsnam. Kritsnam here means entire or complete. Kritsnam, Jagat Kritsnam. The entire universe with just one fragment of myself. I am the Vishtabhyaham Stitaha. Vishtabhyaham Stita means I am situated as the foundation. It's just a fragment of myself for this entire universe. It is enough to know that much. You don't have to know all the things I have said in the 10th chapter. Just know this much. That's it. That's the conclusion of the 10th chapter. Athava bahunaitena kim jnatena tavarjuna vishtabhyahamidam kritsnam ekamshena sthito jagat. In other words, O Arjuna, what use is your knowing all this in detail? I serve as the foundation for this entire universe with just a fragment of myself. Okay, so this is Sri Bhagavan. This is the understanding of God, Bhagavan, that the Bhagavad-Gita is giving us, and it's given by Sri Bhagavan himself. So now, concluding the 10th chapter is Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti, whose commentary I follow, along with Baladev Vidyabhushanam. So this is the Sarartha Varshini Tika of Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti, and he summarizes the 10th chapter as follows. He says, Vishwam Shri Krishna evataha sevyastad dattaya dhiya sa eva aswadhya maduryaha ityadhyayartha iritaha. He says this entire universe is Sri Krishna eva, means it's only Krishna. Everything in this universe is Krishna only. Ataha sevyaha taddattaya dhiya, and therefore he ought to be served by us. We belong to him, we are a part of him, and he is worthy of our service. We should be engaged in his service. And how? By using the intelligence that he has given us. Taddattaya dhiya means by using the intelligence that he has given us. Sa eva aswadhya madhuryaha. Okay, this is a speciality of Vishwanath Chakravarti's commentary, where he actually extracts the sweetness of Sri Krishna, even in the Gita, where actually so much sweetness in those shlokas is not directly present. If you read the Bhagavatam, it is very sweet. Whereas in the Gita, it is more technical, comparatively speaking. But he is able to find that sweetness, and he points out that Shri Krishna, sa eva aswadya madhurya. Knowing this, we should taste aswadya madhurya. We should actually taste that sweetness of Krishna, and that is Krishna. He is the sweetness to be tasted by us. Iti adhyayartha irita. And this is the meaning communicated in the 10th chapter. Iti sarartha varshinyam harshinyam bhakta chetasam gitasu dashamodhyayah sangatah sangatah satam. So every chapter he concludes the commentary in this manner. He says in this manner, in the Sarartha Varshini Tika of the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita, which is in accordance with the opinions of all the previous scholars. So he has studied all the earlier scholars who commented on the Gita, and he has extracted the key points from there and also added his own understanding of the Gita. He says, so Sangataha Sangataha Satam, in accordance with their opinions and understanding. This Sarartha Varshini, I conclude the 10th chapter, and my commentary is meant to give happiness or joy to the bhaktas. Bhakta Chetasam Harshinyam. This universe is verily Sri Krishna himself, and he ought to be served using the intelligence that's given by him. He is the sweetness that ought to be tasted. This is said to be the essence of this chapter. Thus ends the 10th chapter of the Gita in the Sarartha Varshini, which is in accordance with the understanding of the saintly people and which gives joy to the bhaktas. Now we look at Sri Baladeva's conclusion. Sri Baladeva's commentary is called Gita Bhushana Bhashya. And there he says, Yat Chakti Leshat Suryadhyaha Bhavantyugra Tejasaha Yadamshena Dhritam Vishwam Sakrishno Dashamerchayet. So he's saying that Krishna, by whose small portion of the energies, by a small portion of whose energies, big objects like the sun, Suryadhyaha, Bhavanti Atyugra Tejasaha. The sun is Ugra Tejasaha, means it is so aggressively, fiercely powerful and strong. It is mighty. The sun is so strong, mighty, aggressively mighty. Ati Ugra Tejasaha. Such a sun, Yat Shakti Leshataha, or Yat Shakti Leshat, just by a small portion, a small insignificant part of the energy of that Krishna, sun and other objects are getting their immense energy. Yadamshena dhritam vishwam, by whose small portion, again amsha, the entire universe is sustained. Dhritam means sustained or born. Sa Krishna dashame archayet. That Krishna should be worshipped through the 10th chapter of the Gita. By chanting the 10th chapter and by contemplating on the meaning of the 10th chapter, we worship a Krishna who is like this, who is of this nature. That Sri Krishna ought to be worshipped in the 10th chapter of Srimad Gita, or through the 10th chapter of Srimad Gita, by a trifle of whose potencies, the sun and other entities, are extremely hot and formidable, and by a fragment of whom the entire universe is sustained. So with this, we come to the end of the 10th chapter, and now in the next class onwards, we will start the 11th chapter. But this is an opportunity to reflect on what the first 10 chapters of Gita have been teaching us. So the very basic question is, why has the Bhagavad Gita been given to us? What is its essence? How can we benefit from it? The Gita was spoken by Sri Bhagavan on the battlefield of Kurukshetra in a context when Arjuna was ready to fight but got confused, did not want to fight, and his situation reflects a typical situation of a living being in this world, which has to do its work, duties and so on in the normal course of life, but very often runs into dilemmas, confusions, situations where the living being is not able to decide whether I should do this or that, wants to leave its responsibility and go away, run away somewhere, just like Arjuna wanted to do on the battlefield there. So using that as a pretext, Sri Bhagavan is giving the highest form of knowledge. What is the highest form of knowledge? There are two essential aspects to this knowledge, to put it in very brief terms. The first aspect is that each living being is spiritual in nature. Each living being living in this material world because of contact with the material energy or matter. Okay, to put it in simple language, in contact with matter, we are all in contact with matter, we are interacting with matter, our bodies are made of matter, and because of that contact and absorption in matter, each of us or none of us is aware of our spiritual nature. The living beings are completely away from their spiritual nature and they are absorbed in matter, material energy. So the first element of knowledge that the Gita is making us aware of is that we are spiritual beings. And that is the very first teaching that Sri Bhagavan gives to Arjuna in the Bhagavad-Gita when he starts giving him the Upadesh in the second chapter. Sri Bhagavan starts speaking in the second chapter from the first shloka of the second chapter. In the first two shlokas of second chapter he speaks, then again Arjuna interrupts him. Arjuna speaks a few shlokas, then again from the 11th shloka of the second chapter, Sri Bhagavan begins his advice. He begins by scolding Arjuna. He says that you speak like you are a very intelligent person, but you don't know anything. Now hear what I have to tell you. And so in 20 shlokas from that point, he explains the spiritual nature of the living being. And this is the basis. If we do not understand that, then it is difficult to appreciate the rest of the Gita. The rest of the Gita just looks like some ordinary motivational book. Okay, we have a lot of self-help books, motivational literature. And the Gita looks like some form of that written long back by some ancient people. But the Gita is much, much more than that. And to appreciate its real knowledge, we have to first begin by understanding that we are spiritual living beings, spiritual entities. All living beings are spiritual in nature. We are identical jivatmas. We are identical to each other in that sense. Now then, as the Gita progresses, the second major aspect of knowledge that Sri Bhagavan gives, which is even higher than this knowledge, is the knowledge that we are actually eternally connected to him. We are his fragment, and the best way that we can connect with him is in bhakti or love. Love is the highest experience that the living being can have, and that is touched upon in the Gita. It is not explained in great detail. That is the subject matter of the Bhagavatam. But in the Gita itself, Sri Bhagavan in numerous places touches upon that love. And that is, not very obvious to everybody. It is commented upon by those who have understood bhakti as the key message of the Gita. Some of the earlier commentators like Adi Shankara and his followers have completely missed out that aspect of the Gita. They focus only on the first aspect of knowledge, which I just spoke about, of the basic jnana. But vijnana, the visishta jnana, that is the knowledge of bhakti and that loving relationship, that bond we have with Bhagavan, is what is the higher knowledge, and the Gita concludes with that. Okay, so the first 6 chapters of Gita, the chapter, you can say, we say 1 to 6, but actually the knowledge begins from chapter 2 onwards. So 2 to 6 or 1 to 6, the first 6 chapters are predominantly about what is called karma yoga. The middle 6 chapters, Bhakti Yoga, and the last 6 chapters from 13 to 18 are predominantly about Jnana Yoga. Yoga is the process to connect with Bhagavan. So the Gita makes us aware about our spiritual nature, our relationship with Sri Bhagavan, that the fact that we can relate with him in love, and love is the highest state of existence that we can have, and then tells us that yoga is the process to which we achieve that state. We go to that state. So getting mukti is presented as a goal in the Bhagavad Gita, but getting mukti or getting bhakti, getting that love, is not about going from this place to some other place. It's not about changing the place. It's about changing our state of existence, changing our consciousness. So living in this body, living in the same place that we are, it is possible to experience that same bhakti if we alter the consciousness that we have currently. And how do we alter that consciousness? We alter the consciousness by coming in contact with the Shastra like this, like Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and allied Shastra, and the people who have written on this, who have commented on this, the people who have realized Bhagavan, realized that love, and who are now talking about it. By repeatedly contemplating on that message, and by performing the sadhana, the upasana, which involves activities like doing japa of his name. Okay, very simple activities of bhakti like doing japa of Sri Bhagavan's name, visiting his temple, listening to his bhajan or engaging in his bhajan, etc., etc. One is able to absorb one's consciousness. Okay, it is said that the mind and in turn the consciousness, you see, we experience our consciousness through our mind, right, in the current state that we are in. We are not independent of our mind. Even though we are not the mind, we are beyond the mind. But currently, we experience our consciousness and ourself through the mind. And therefore, to see our true self and to be connected to Bhagavan, we need to refine our mind. And it is said that the mind actually takes the existence of the object with which it is in contact. Just like if I go and watch a movie, let's say I go to a movie theater, and I sit there and I watch the movie, and I'm watching the movie. As I'm watching the movie, I go into that existence of that movie. That movie is set in some place, some country, some land, and I'm there, right? In those 2 hours of that movie, I go there. I'm with those actors and actresses. I'm a part of them because my mind is absorbed in that. And after coming out of the theater, because of inertia, I still am there for some time, at least for some time, until I find something else which can absorb my mind. And then I can change my state of existence from that of being in the movie to something else, right? So essentially, wherever we absorb our mind, our state of existence becomes that. So it's as simple as that. If we want to go to the state of existence that Sri Bhagavan is in, and where we can experience our best happiness, then we need to do this. We need to do, for example, things like reading the Gita, chanting Sri Bhagavan's names, contemplating on those meanings, etc. And that is the path by which we attain him. So this is in summary what the Gita is teaching us. And through the first 10 chapters, from the third chapter, Sri Bhagavan speaks about karma yoga. Actually, yoga is one word, and yoga is used in the Gita to refer to, I would say, at least two broad senses. In one sense, the most basic sense, as a process of connection. The process or a mechanism by which we connect, that is called yoga. And the second sense in which the word yoga is used is a state of being connected. Yuktaha. Yoga is the state of being connected. Samatvam yoga uchyate, for example, in the second chapter, Sri Bhagavan says. So, being in the state of samatva is yoga. Yoga karmasu kaushalam, being in a state of doing your work in a very wise manner. Kaushalam means wisdom. Doing your work with wisdom is a yoga. So yoga is a state of existence. Yoga is the process of being in that, going to that state of existence. In both senses, the word yoga is used. So yoga is one thing actually, but the way in which we do yoga can differ. And that is why these terms come, such as karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, etc. So these three broad approaches actually are two, because karma and jnana is said to be one path, and bhakti is an independent path, a path independent of karma and jnana. So both are explained in the Gita, and actually both of them are yoga, but because of the way in which the way in which they're executed, the yoga is executed, they take these adjectives, different adjectives. And in between, in the 6th and the 8th chapter, Sri Bhagavan touches upon the Ashtanga Yoga process, what is called Ashtanga Yoga. And Ashtanga Yoga is not a separate path by itself, it is a methodology. Just like in your research, you use research methodology. You use methodology for planning how you validate your assumptions, validate your contribution. You want to say something, but you have to validate that with a methodology. So methodology is, you can say, a mechanism or a means by which you go to something. So somebody practices karma yoga and then does jnana yoga. He may use Ashtanga yoga as a means to practice that and then attain perfection. Similarly, somebody practicing bhakti yoga may also want to use Ashtanga yoga. Like, for example, Dhruva did that. He was actually following the path of bhakti, but he used the process of Ashtanga yoga because it was suitable for him at that point of time. Right? His body, his mind was capable of doing that. So in 6 months using Ashtanga yoga, he could attain on the path of bhakti. On the path of bhakti, he could attain Bhagavan, he could see Bhagavan. Now, today in this Kali Yuga, it is said that, compared to the people living in earlier yugas, or compared to the living beings of the earlier yugas, the condition of the human beings in the Kali Yuga is extremely deplorable because of our own past karma, the samskaras. So jivas with such samskaras take birth as human beings. And we are weak compared to what is required for these processes like Ashtanga Yoga. But fortunately, said that Kaler dosha nidhe rajan astihi eko mahan gunaha kirtanadeva krishnasya mukta sangha param vrajet. Kali Yuga is full of impurity, full of dosha, defects. Kali Yuga has so many problems. There is cheating everywhere. Okay, the typical human being in the Kali Yuga speaks lies. Everybody cheats everybody else, whether it's between father and son, whether it's between teacher and student. Anywhere, in any relationship, there is cheating, there is lying, there is betrayal, there is dishonesty, there is hatred. Everything is in excess in the Kali Yuga. But despite all that, there is one very great quality. For somebody who wants to attain spiritual realization perfection, there is the process of bhakti, and specifically the activity known as Krishna Sankirtanam. Kirtanadeva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Vrajet. He can get that supreme realization of Bhagavan. Param Vrajet means he can attain that supreme Bhagavan's supreme abode by just doing Kirtan. That's because Kirtan is very easy to do. It's an easy process to execute, the easiest of all processes. Anybody can understand that, how difficult it is to chant a name. If I ask you to, just like in the beginning of today's class, we chanted Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. How difficult is it for anyone to chant that? Even somebody who doesn't have a proper tongue or who cannot pronounce words properly can chant that in his mind, right? Or move his tongue, and along with the movement of his tongue, he can produce those words in his mind. So it is so easy. But even though it is so easy, it should not be mistaken that such an easy thing will obviously not be very powerful also. That mistake should not be made. Even though it is very easy, it's the most powerful thing. It's more powerful than other yoga processes. So the process of Jnana Yoga, the process followed by the Jnanis, okay? Sometimes the people who practice Jnana Yoga, they believe that bhakti is just a sentimental thing for people who are not intellectually capable and who are emotional, say women, children. They talk like that, not me. They say that such people, they should do bhakti. But eventually they will come to Jnana, because by bhakti, their mind will get cleaned up, and then when they become qualified, they can start doing Jnana. That's not at all a correct understanding. The people who do Jnana, what do they do actually? They contemplate. The process of Jnana works by Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. These are three important words in that process. Hearing the words of the Guru or the Shastra, right? The Guru gives the Shastra. Shastra comes from great rishis like Sri Vedavyas Muni. And the Vyakhya is written by great scholars, the meanings, the fine meanings of those things. And then through that, we understand the nature of the Atma, the nature of Bhagavan. One line of Jnanis believes that there's only one living being called Brahma. And even this Jivatma is actually that Brahma. Okay, they are called Advaitis. So that path says that just contemplate on these meanings again and again. Shravanam, Mananam. Mananam means contemplation on what you heard from the Guru. Mananam is required in bhakti as well. Nididhyasanam. Nididhyasanam means repeating that further and further and further. On and on and on. Mananam is basic contemplation. Nididhyasanam is much deeper mananam. Repeated mananam is nididhyasanam. Sustained mananam. So contemplate on it again and again, day and night, day after day, day after day. Talk about it to others. Read it again. So Nididhyasanam, and doing the supporting upasana for that, living in a conducive environment, living a very sattvic life. By doing all these things, you will come to the realization that you are Brahman. But the Bhakti literature reveals, Bhagavatam reveals that you don't need to do that if you're doing Harinama Sankirtanam. Why? Even if you are not contemplating like this, like the way the Jnanis do, on the philosophical meanings of the Shastra, simply by doing bhakti when the mind becomes purified, Sri Bhagavan reveals that knowledge from inside. Say Jnana and Karma, they follow bhakti, Jnana and Vairagya. Vairagya means detachment, which the Jnanis are working hard to achieve. That automatically follows. And if you start this process, you will realize this. You'll see how, if you intently put yourself on this path, See, right now, if I tell you Vairagya means detachment, if I tell somebody, not you, but let's say somebody, a general layman, that Vairagya is detachment, you will have to stay away from this, stay away from that, don't go to parties, don't watch TV, don't do this, that, then it looks miserable. What do you mean? My life, you're cutting everything out of my life. Then what is the use of living? Right? It looks like that. But when you do bhakti and start tasting the sweetness of bhakti, a whole world opens up. And when that world opens up, automatically these things leave. And even if somebody asks you to go and do that, what you were doing earlier, you don't feel attracted to it. It naturally goes out from you. So now you see how Vairagya automatically follows. It's an outcome, it's a side effect of bhakti. It is not something you have to strive for. Of course, you are conscious that Vairagya is important. In bhakti also, you are conscious that Vairagya is important, because sometimes if your mind, because of its previous association with some objects of enjoyment, sensual enjoyment, wants to go back and experience them again, then your knowledge helps you. Theoretical knowledge tells you that no, if you do that, then all the sweetness of bhakti that you have tasted will go away. It protects you in that sense. But the real Vairagya that you realize comes by doing bhakti. It automatically comes. You don't have to struggle for it. You don't have to sit in the middle of fire or stand in the middle of cold water, which sometimes Jnana Yogis do. Okay, they do tapasya, extreme tapasya, in order to build the strength, inner strength, to be able to get Vairagya, develop Vairagya. But in bhakti, Vairagya automatically follows as a process of bhakti. Bhakti is a very sweet process. And that is what Sri Bhagavan advocates. From the 7th chapter up to the 6th chapter, Sri Bhagavan is not speaking so much about bhakti, he is speaking more about the basics of karma yoga and slowly moving into jnana yoga through the 4th, 5th and 6th chapters. At the end of the 6th chapter, he says, Yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yo mam same yukta tamo mataha. He says, amongst all types of yogis, that yogi who is actually absorbed in me, antaratmana, through his inner being, through his inner self, means from within, who is absorbed in me, such a person, such a yogi, I consider to be the best among the yogis. So with that shloka, which is the conclusion of the 6th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, he begins the whole section on Bhakti Yoga. That's considered the sutra to the next 6 chapters. So from the 7th chapter onwards, he starts talking about Bhakti. And that's why you suddenly see the sweetness of flavor. Right? Like they say sometimes, let's say you're moving along river, and the river has got a particular color and you have got used to that color, and suddenly that river merges into a different river, and the two rivers meet and you reach that meeting point, and then you suddenly see the color of the water changing because the other river is now taken over and you are now on the other river. So when you go from the 6th chapter to the 7th chapter of Gita, you suddenly see the change in the mood of the kind of things being said. You're no longer talking about the nature of the Atma and Vairagya and this and that. You're suddenly talking about Bhagavan and his beauty, his vibhuti. That begins right from the 7th chapter. Right? And so we have reached now from the 7th to the 8th and the 9th and the 10th. In the 9th and 10th, you'll see Bhakti being talked about an even more culmination. And 11th and 12th. So in the 11th chapter, after the 10th chapter where Bhagavan has talked about his vibhutis, in the 11th chapter, Arjuna will present some questions, just like anybody, like suppose some friend comes to you and says, look, you have, let's say that you trust this guy and you know him to be very intelligent. After all, there absolutely no black spot in his interaction with you all these years. He has shown brilliance in his work. Anything that he said, he could solve problems easily for you. But suddenly, all of a sudden, one day he comes to you, and as you are talking, he makes some claim about himself, which doesn't sound very realistic. For example, he may say that, you know what, I can create a whole house out of this bag that I have. And then you don't know whether to believe him or not, because on the one hand, this guy has been true to everything that he has said so far. He's really been genuine, honest, and you know that he doesn't speak loosely. At the same time, he's saying something that sounds completely absurd, completely unrealistic. Is he joking, or what is he saying? So Arjuna is now put in that position. So for him, Krishna has been a friend all his life, and he has done so many activities as a friend. And suddenly Krishna is saying all this. In the 10th chapter, he is saying, Adityanam aham Vishnuhu, Jyotisham Raviran, I am the light of the sun, I am the moon among the stars, and this and that. And so, I mean, Arjuna is saying, okay, it sounds good, but, we need to check this out. So, in the 11th chapter, if you see, I'll again touch upon it when I come there. Arjuna is actually expressing his suspicion, and he says that if you really meant what you said, then please show me. Okay, then Sri Bhagavan doesn't waste any more time. Already a lot of time has been wasted. So he says, okay, now I know, I knew that, you will suspect because you're already in confused state. So just watch. So he takes him to a point in the 11th chapter where Arjuna has to stop him and say, stop, please come back. I don't want to see this anymore. I have now seen enough. I believe whatever you said. Please come back. So the 11th chapter, therefore, is very exciting. It's an exciting chapter where Bhagavan reveals his Vishwarupam. And in the next class onwards, we will go into that. So I've given you a very brief overview of the Gita. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to. Let's look at the participants online too.
Sir, this is Bhaskar. Can I ask a question?
Yes, Bhaskar.
So my question is slightly different. You spoke about the yugas somewhere in between, right? And
Yes.
there is some kind of difference of opinion between different yogis or guru that which yuga are we in today. For example, I follow Paramahansa Yoganandaji, and according to his guru, we are in Sri Yukteswarji. We are in Dwapar Yuga right now. So, what is your understanding and what are scholars saying about this?
The traditional Vedic scholars whom I follow, all the sampradayas, the Shankara Sampradaya, the Ramanuja Sampradaya, the Chaitanya Sampradaya, they all say that this is the Kali Yuga that's going on. The Mahabharata also says that. The Mahabharata says that it is written in the beginning of the Kali Yuga. The Bhagavatam, for example, the Bhagavatam also says that. So in my understanding, this is the Kali Yuga. Yes, I do understand that other scholars have given some alternate interpretations also to the Yuga.
Thank you, sir.
The characteristics of Kali Yuga that are described in the Bhagavatam, in the Dwadasha Skanda, the 12th Skanda of Bhagavatam, how Kali Yuga people will behave. For example, people will eat human flesh, said. And we see examples of that. The cows will become small like goats. And we are seeing that. People will eat cow meat very commonly, right? Now in India also it's becoming common. Right? Earlier it was restricted to the West, but now in India also there are people campaigning for it openly. So these symptoms of Kali Yuga described in the Bhagavatam, we are seeing that happening. So that also lends, some support to understanding that the Kali Yuga is going on right now.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, you said that the Jnana yogis do a lot of tapasya, expanding in the. But to my understanding, I feel that Jnana yogis believe that they need to only know about their spiritual nature, and it makes them automatically, once they know about their spiritual nature, which means that okay, I have always been free. I have never been in bondage, and I am free right now. So on the contrary, I've heard statements like अद्वैतियों से साधना नहीं होती because they only focus on just knowing about your true nature and that's it. So
yeah. So the Advaitavadis are like that, but I'm talking about Jnanis in general, not only about those who are following Shankara Sampradaya. There are many other tapasvis, who also try to get the same jnana, by doing practices which help them. See, ultimately, the purpose of all these tapasya practices, like standing in cold water or fasting for many days and whatever, all kinds of things, is to develop sattva guna, to become free from rajas and tamas. And they believe that by developing more and more sattva, their ability to contemplate on that knowledge, to do that manana nididhyasana, becomes better and better. And therefore, they progress faster and faster.
Who are these gyanis? Like Ashtanga Yoga?
So many Babas we see, tapasvis, they may not be following the Shankara Sampradaya as such. Yes, what you're saying is right. For those who are following the Advaita Sampradaya, specifically, the scholars and the upasakas there, they do upasana which is something similar to what the bhakti yogis do. Only the Shraddha is different. Their Shraddha is of a different nature. Their conceptualization of the reality is different.
So, can you please elaborate more on why even Bhagavan is also Maya in the Advaitins paradigm? So, here we say that Bhagavan is the ultimate truth, Sri Krishna is the ultimate truth.
That is how, the Advaitins also say that there is a Brahman. There's one Brahma. There's only one entity called Brahma, and that is beyond Maya. But that same Brahma comes under Maya and thinks of itself as Jivatma. And in between, there is an entity called the Ishvara. The Ishvara is superior to Jivatma, but is still under the influence of Maya, is in contact with Maya. So this is a...
Ishvara has the power of Maya, or
Ishvara is under Maya.
under Maya?
So that is where Advaita runs into certain challenges, which the later Vedantic scholars have very heavily critiqued and challenged and tried to show the shortcoming of that. How can Ishvara come under Maya, or how can the Brahma, the same Brahma, which is said to be beyond
Maya, right? Not Ishvara.
Yeah, so when the Brahman comes under Maya, at one level it is called the Ishvara, and at an even further level it is the Jivatma. So one of the Advaiti scholars whom I was listening to was explaining like that. Only Brahma is beyond Maya. Ishvara is a state which is beyond that of the Samanya Jivatma. So ultimately there is only one entity. So it's confusing.
Don't all the schools of Vedanta agree on the definition or the functions of Ishvara? The Sankhya does not have any Ishvara.
Yeah, so
Yoga says Guru of all Gurus.
Yeah. So those other schools have their different understandings. But within Vedanta schools, so this Ishvara coming under Maya and becoming the Jivatma and so on is unique to Advaita. The other schools of Vedanta don't agree with that.
They say that Bhagavan is real, including Visheshwar Advaita.
Yeah, Bhagavan is always beyond Maya. He is never under Maya. Maya is his Shakti. Is always subservient to him.
So
certain leelas that he performs, like as when he comes as Rama or Krishna or Chaitanya and so on, Yoga Maya assists him, puts him in different situations. It's like a collaborative arrangement.
So, sir, in Advaita, is it okay to say that Ishvara has Mahamaya, but is acted upon by Yoga Maya?
Ishvara is not acted upon, he is served by Yoga Maya. That's the correct way of putting it. Yoga Maya serves him. Mahamaya also serves him. Mahamaya serves him by keeping all the Jivatmas in the samsara, because they want to be here. The Jivatmas in samsara. Why are the Jivatmas in samsara? This is called material samsara. What is the meaning of the word samsara? Okay, this is something that it's a very basic word used in all philosophy in the Gita also. Samsarati means moves or travels. So in this samsara, the Jivatma does not have a permanent existence. Its state of existence goes on changing. That's the meaning of samsarati. It's going on traveling from one state of existence to another. Actually, the Jivatma is also described as achalaha, means it does not move. So in spiritual existence, it does not move at all, because there is no space. Space is a material thing, but it experiences the movement because of being in contact with this Maya, under the influence of Maya. So it experiences different bodies, and within the same body experiences different stages of change. Like I experience myself as a child, as a baby, then as a small child, then as a youth, and then as a middle-aged man, then as an old man, etc., etc. And after this life, I experience a different life, a different birth, a different body. This is called samsarati. And that is why this existence is called samsara. So why are we in samsara, and why does Maya keep us in samsara? It is because of two fundamental factors. That's called ichcha and dvesha. Ichcha means the desire to enjoy matter, the conviction that this matter is the source of my happiness. This matter is the source of my pleasure. It's my eternal identity. Now, if only that was there, then the problem is only half of it, or maybe even less than half, because the other factor is even bigger, and that is dvesha. Dvesha means hatred towards others, envy, which is the source of all conflict in this world. In some sense, dvesha in this world also keeps this world in balance, because it doesn't allow anybody to go beyond a certain limit in expressing finding their ichcha. So ichcha and dvesha go hand in hand. And because of the presence of ichcha and dvesha, we experience samsara. So becoming free from samsara ultimately boils down to freeing ourselves internally from ichcha and dvesha. If we can free ourselves from ichcha and dvesha, then we free ourselves from this samsara. And it's a process which is internal.
So, based on samsarati, so we always see that okay, there are deaths, and by deaths we mean that the physical body dies.
Yeah.
But in our philosophy, we believe that in the next birth, the linga sharir remains the same, and it is associated with a new sthula sharir.
Yes.
So, since even linga sharir is also made up of matter, so does it also experience death at some point of time, or it is of eternal nature like the Atma?
No, at the point of mukti, when the Atma gets its realization, even when it realizes the basic realization of myself being spiritual, even at that point, the linga sharir is discarded. It dissolves, or it just vanishes. The Atma goes beyond that.
So in deep sleep, does it dissolve? Or
no, it is there, but the Atma is detached from it. Detached, or you can say not conscious of it. Not in connect with it. That is why some people compare that stage of sushupti with the stage of being in samadhi, or in turiya. It's some form of samadhi, because in that state too, you are detached from your mind and your senses. Your antarindriya also are switched off at that point of time.
Aren't those diagonally opposite?
Yes.
Because that is super conscious.
Correct.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Yes, Puneet. Yeah.
Sir, today we talk about upasana. So, can you, sir, please tell how upasana is different from bhakti? In today's world, there are so many people nowadays going for tantra, and they are people usually known as upashak. So, what is the difference between bhakti and upasana? Is there a kind of tapasya or something? But you can how can you differentiate upasana and bhakti?
The word bhakti refers to engage in Sri Bhagavan's service. It's a system. It's a big system which involves different kinds of activities, a way of living, a way in which we think about this world, etc. Upasana refers to, literally in Sanskrit, worship. Upasana means worship. So, upasana, like we say puja, for example. So, puja is even more, you can say, crystallized form of upasana, where we actually use some concrete materials. Upasana is slightly broader, because there can be more different varieties of upasana, different ways in which people can worship their Ishta Devata. Upasana refers to worship, and so upasana is a part of bhakti. It's a part of any process. Every process of yoga will have its kind of upasana, or different types of upasana.
So how tantra is related to upasana? There are so many people nowadays are saying that he is a upashak of one who goes with tantra and all. There is a kind of a bhakti also.
See, tantra again, the word tantra again has a general meaning. I know we use the word tantric to refer to certain types of people, but everybody actually, in any path of yoga, everybody follows some tantra. Tantra means what? Specific steps, specific sequences of activities. That refers to, that's the meaning of tantra. You can say processes, methods, techniques.
Okay.
For example, on the day of Janmashtami, or forget about Janmashtami, even on any given day, somebody does Sandhya Vandan. Okay, a Brahmana boy does Sandhya Vandan. Sandhya Vandan means worshipping the sun, the Narayana who lives in the sun. So there is a methodology or a method for doing Sandhya Vandan depending on the sampradaya in which that person has received his Gayatri. He has to chant a sequence of mantras and then offer arghya. Arghya means offering water, arghya pradhan, and so on, and do a little bit of pranayam in between. So all that put together is one aspect, one type of tantra. That is called tantra. So tantra refers to any set of instructions, activities to do something, carry out, execute some duties. That's the general meaning of the word tantra.
The ultimate purpose is bhakti only.
Yes. In the Bhagavad Gita's ultimate message is that we should do bhakti. So we should take that as our purpose of life. That's true. Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Anjana, yes. Yeah, Anjana, yes.
So we were talking about how we can bring these into practices, whatever we are learning, how we can inculcate it. So one of the prime techniques, apart from pranayam, is used also is meditation. So I wanted to just know your thoughts on what is the impact of light on meditation, like
Impact of
light.
light.
Yes.
This,
meditation.
like tube light or ceiling light.
Yes, like how luminous our environment should be, because recently I came across one practice where normal meditation, guided meditation is done, but the spiritual teacher who is guiding suggests that we should decrease the light and do the same practice as guided meditations are followed. So I just want to know if you have any specific take on the impact of light on how much connect or how much impact meditation can have if we reduce or brighten the light.
I think that is only a matter of individual choice. See, exactly what is meditation, in my understanding, is meditation is when we are able to withdraw our mind from its connection with any external object and focus it on something else, something specific. Okay, now in the path of bhakti that I was talking about, the meditation is on the name of Sri Bhagavan, Harinam. So the Harinam is given by the Guru to us, and whatever Harinam, whatever form of Harinam that our Guru has given us, we are supposed to meditate on that. Repeatedly chant that and meditate on that. So suppose somebody is doing that, then what should they do? They should absorb their mind in that chanting. They should chant that either with their tongue or in the mind, and then fix all their thoughts on that. They should withdraw their thoughts from anything else. Now, if that person, that particular individual, feels that by switching off the light in their room, they can do it better, then they should do that. But if somebody else feels that they do not need to do that, or they are unable to do that, or if they switch off the light, then that's actually a disturbance, and keeping the light on is better for them, for whatever reason, then they should do it that way. The ultimate point is that they should be able to pull their thing inside. And my personal experience has been that both when light is on or when it is dim or it's off, I have not noticed much difference. Sometimes I keep the light off because it attracts insects or something, but sometimes I leave it on. But ultimately, I try to keep the mind on the mantra to the extent possible.
Even in the institute, when this orientation program is organized for all the students who join,
Yeah.
So the teachers that come here also suggest, not suggest, they execute it.
Yeah.
with the dim light on, I think, day 3. It's a 3-day program.
That may be, yeah, it may be suitable to many people. Even I sometimes have seen that if the light is kept very dim or put off, then it prevents the mind from getting distracted by some object in the room. Otherwise, there's some object in the room to which the mind may go, and we may start thinking about that. So keeping the light dim, or keeping just a small lamp, maybe there's a picture of a deity, picture of Krishna or whichever deity that you're worshipping, and light a small lamp in front of that deity, and there's nothing else that you can see. That may help that person to meditate better on that mantra.
So we can safely say in our research language that these are just moderators.
Yes.
To amplify the impact.
Yeah, and they are individual specific also. The personality also matters. This is not an absolute thing that light should be dimmed. It may help many people. I can understand why.
Right. And also in yoga.
It is not a, so let's put it like this. It is not a necessity for doing japa.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, there is this kriya called Prata Kriya, which meditates on lamp.
Okay,
light.
yeah, that is in yoga.
Yes, in yoga.
In Ashtanga yoga. That is for eyesight and eyesight and concentration. Yeah,
right.
Focus. Yeah.
So essentially, we are focusing inwards in
Yeah.
meditation. So we can relate this to that as well.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So whichever form of yoga, if it is called yoga and if it's in alignment with the Gita, then all of it is directed towards helping us focus inside, withdraw insight from the outside.
I think it's also a layer of that we call Hawthorne effect, like the experiment that was conducted in 1920s, where the workers were working in the light condition, the temperature, room temperature, and the timing of the day impacts the productivity of the workers. So it's maybe the ease of work. Maybe, for example, if the light is dim, maybe it is very easy to, like you said, to focus, or sometimes it is not. Certainly, when we are closing our eyes, it's very easy to focus rather than a strong light is trying to divert us. So it is more like, I think it is the environment that is we fit into.
Correct.
Easily.
Exactly. So the individual should decide what works best for them and do accordingly. So we should.
Prayer rooms, they have a dim light facility.
In our prayer
In
room.
our
Prayer room. Yeah. Yes.
It helps in dilation of the eyes, like it becomes
good. Yeah.
under
That's good. Yeah.
Sir, I also want to go back to Sarthak's question, where what I read from one of the YouTube videos is that Maya has a spectrum. In Advaitavadi, they say that the intensity of the Maya is less in an Ishwar, but as it comes to Jivatma, the intensity of Maya is more, and there is more heterogeneity among the Jivatmas. So a spiritual Jivatma will have less Maya portion, and a non-spiritual person will have more Maya portion.
I see.
So I just wanted to add that.
Okay. Okay. Those who are online, do you have any questions? Shall we chant the final Antyamangalam? Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaah Gobhramanebhyo Shubhamastu Nityam Lokas Samastas Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Tad Vishno Paramam Padagum Sada Pashyanti Surayah Divi Vachakshuratatam Tadvipraso Vipanyavo Jagruvagum Sassamindhate Vishnoryat Paramam Padam Paryaaptya Anantarayaya Sarvastamoti Ratra Uttama Mahadbhavati Sarvasyaptyai सर्वस्य जित्यै सर्वमेव तेनाप्नोति सर्वं जयति। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। हरि ओम तत्सत्।